For literally thousands of years, philosophers have wrestled with the idea of suicide. It's one of those topics that forces us to look right at our deepest beliefs about life, death, what we owe ourselves, and what we owe each other. So together, let's explore the long and complicated history of this unsettling question.
So, let's start with the central puzzle here. Throughout all of history, the reactions to this act have been all over the map. Everything from anger and condemnation to sympathy and even glorification. But there is one thing that's always true. It is never uncontroversial. So why? Why does this one act provoke such a powerful and deeply divided response in us? Let's dive in.
Okay, so before we can even begin to debate the morality of any of this, we hit our first massive roadblock. We have to actually define what we're talking about. And that might sound simple, but believe me, it's one of the absolute trickiest parts of the entire discussion.
At first glance, the definition seems pretty obvious, right? Suicide is a self-caused death. But is it really that simple? Think about it. Is a lifelong smoker who dies from lung cancer a suicide? They kind of caused their own death. Or what about someone who accidentally drinks poison because they thought it was lemonade? These examples show us that this simple definition, well, it just doesn't work.
This really helps break down the problem. On one side, you have clear cases that we all agree aren't suicide. The smoker doesn't intend to die, they just accept the risk. The person drinking poison is just making a tragic mistake. But then you get to these really murky areas. What about the soldier who jumps on a grenade? They know death is pretty much guaranteed, but is their intention to die? Or is it to save their friends? This is where that simple, self-caused death definition completely falls apart.
So, to get around this mess, philosophers sharpen the definition. It really boils down to two key things. First, the person has to believe that what they're doing will lead to their death. And second, and this is the absolute crucial part, they have to intend for death to be the outcome of that action. So it's not just about cause and effect, it's all about belief and intent.
Okay, so now that we have a better definition to work with, let's take a quick tour through a few thousand years of Western history to see just how dramatically the thinking on this has changed.
The lens we view this through has shifted radically. For ancient thinkers like Aristotle, it was basically an offense against your community. Then, with the rise of Christianity, it became a sin against God. Fast forward to the Enlightenment, and suddenly it's reframed as an issue of individual liberty and reason. And today, today it's largely seen through a scientific lens, as a psychological and social issue that we should try to understand and prevent. And that brings us right to the heart of it all, the central ethical battleground. This is where the biggest, most profound arguments really clash, and they tend to revolve around three big ideas: value, authority, and duty.
So, the first major debate is about the value of life itself. On one side, you have this sanctity of life argument. This says that life is precious, period. It has this sacred, inherent value, and it doesn't matter if you're happy or suffering. But on the other side, you have the quality of life view, which argues that, the value of a life isn't absolute. It really depends on the experience of living it.
This whole quality of life idea isn't new at all. The Roman Stoic philosopher Seneca summed it up perfectly almost 2,000 years ago. He said, "Mere living is not a good, but living well." For him, and for many others, it's the quality of the life, not just the fact of being alive, that truly matters.
All right, the next huge debate is all about authority. Who gets to decide when a life ends? Religious arguments, like those from Thomas Aquinas, say that life is a gift from God. It's His property, really. We're just looking after it. So taking your own life is like destroying something that doesn't even belong to you. But in total opposition, you have libertarian arguments that say, hold on, we have a right of self-ownership. Our bodies are our own, and we have the final say over them.
And finally, what about our duties to other people? One classic argument is that suicide harms the whole community. It deprives everyone of a person's potential contributions. But this leads to a really difficult, very controversial counterargument that some philosophers have raised. Could a situation ever be so extreme, say with a terminal illness, that continuing to live imposes such an unfair burden on others that a person might actually have a duty to die? It's a deeply unsettling thought, but it's part of the debate.
All of this history, all of these moral debates, they lead us right into this crucial modern dilemma. It's this constant tension between respecting a person's autonomy and our powerful impulse to intervene. So when, if ever, can suicide be considered a truly rational choice?
The philosopher Richard Brandt really helped clarify what a rational choice might even look like. He said, look, the real issue isn't trying to compare life to the unknowable state of death.
The actual choice is between two possible futures, a shorter life that ends now versus a longer life as it would likely continue.
But, and this is a huge but, even if a rational suicide is possible in theory, there are so many real-world challenges that complicate things. For one, these decisions are often incredibly impulsive, not the result of careful thought. People are often deeply ambivalent, hoping for help even as they act. Of course, mental illnesses like depression can completely distort how someone sees their future. And finally, it's just incredibly difficult for any of us to truly, fully grasp the absolute finality of death.
So we end up back where we started, with a question. After millennia of debating value and authority and reason, maybe the philosophy of suicide isn't really about the nature of death at all. Perhaps its greatest value is that it forces every one of us to ask what it actually means to live a good, valuable life in the first place.